And welcome back, everybody, to the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast. Tonight we'll be previewing the 2018 Arnold Palmer Invitational. Make sure you check out the podcast on Twitter at Always Press DFS, and I will introduce the co-hosts as usual. We have on Twitter BP Snow 11 Bucks. How we doing?
Doing great, Bubba. Glad to be back doing this another week, another Tiger week.
Another Tiger week. We will get into that for sure. But before we get into that, we introduce Mr. Paul Casey himself. You can find him on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Oh, and he's rocking the Tiger shirt. Jesse, how we doing?
So I think it's pretty evident. Paul Casey wins. It's the week after. I'm going to be happy, so that's just how this thing works. I do have the Tiger shirt on, though. Because I am true to the Tig, and he's back. So let's get after this.
Let's recap the Valspar real quick. And Jesse, I'm going to let you have the floor here. Your boy, he finally took one down. First time in like 9 years for Paul Casey. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, he finally was able to roll in some putts on a Sunday. Set up just about as good as you can possibly set it up for him. He was well ahead of leaders. It was, I think, like 7 holes or so after, before the last group. So he was able to roll in some putts, man. He played some really solid golf. The ball striking, of course, is always there. It's never an issue with him. It's just a matter of can he make putts. And it finally happened, firing 66 on Sunday to take it down by 1 shot over Tiger and Patrick. But we'll talk about Patrick and Tiger here in a minute. The big deal is Paul Casey finally won. Now, I did not bet him to win. I don't know how we avoided that last week, Bucks, because we always bet him to win. But I did have him on DraftKings, so that was fun.
Well, maybe this week. Well, he's not in it this week, so you're good. But, yeah, he was a ton of fun on DraftKings. I had him and Justin Rose matched up and worked out okay. Bucks, what are your thoughts on Paul Casey finally taking one down 6 under on Sunday after an even par Saturday?
Yeah, it was super exciting to see Paul Casey finally pull one out. I mean, we've been rooting for him forever. I mean, we literally play him every single week because he's that kind of perennial guaranteed top 15 guy. I think the one singular week I'm not rooting hard for Paul Casey was last week when I was rooting hard for Tiger. So right. It was kind of bittersweet. I think Paul Casey won the golf tournament. He didn't backdoor into it. He won that golf tournament. I mean, he played phenomenal that final round, and that's been his crutch, right? I mean, he typically is money Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then kind of tanks it on Sunday or just kind of plods around the golf course. But I don't know what happened. He went bananas. So good for him. Great event overall.
Yeah, he did it in the most Paul Casey-like fashion because the putter has not been friendly to him for the most part. He's only hitting so many greens. I think it was 9 out of 18 or even might have been worse than that. Basically, the stats they had for Paul Casey would not have resembled the winner most weeks. It was pretty impressive. He got it done, and we're definitely happy about that happening. But it did come at the expense of one Eldrick Woods, who was outstanding going into the weekend or into Sunday, even 1 shot off the lead. Made the big birdie putt at 17 that we were having lunch and a couple cocktails in the clubhouse, and that place erupted. And I can only imagine what everywhere else was. It was insane, and comes up just short on 18 from forcing the playoffs. But Bucks, I'll let you have the floor first on this one. Tiger's back, and there's no sugarcoating it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, he is. I think, especially when you consider, I mean, Tiger's solid, like super solid, but on courses like the Honda, courses like Valspar, even courses like we'll talk about this week, where you don't have to hit driver, he is elite. I mean, he's right back to being elite because his iron game, wedge game is on point right now. His putter has started working. He didn't really quite have it Sunday, but overall, yeah, he's back. I mean, and you can't discredit how hard it's probably been for him to make it back. I mean, he was dominant for 15 of the better part of 20 years and had a couple rough years, but he seems to be playing with more confidence. He seems to be playing, honestly, he seems to just be having more fun. I think we saw Tiger of old on Sunday where he was like super in the zone. And it was really, really fun to watch. So yeah, Tiger's back. And Tiger matters, man. He pumps the ratings. He pumps DK. Nobody can question that.
No.
So
The talk,
I'm excited.
The talk around, the talk all over Twitter about how he doesn't influence a tournament on DraftKings is some of the most foolish conversations I've seen, and it's just another DraftKings ploy to act like they don't know what the frick they're doing. It's embarrassing to watch.
Yeah.
And they showed the ratings this weekend, the highest non-major event in years. And oh wait, yeah, Tiger was in contention, folks. It's real easy to figure out, like you said, Bucks. And I love watching this new Tiger out there. He's, they talk about how he's talking to the kids. He never talked to his competition before when he was playing, ever. Like, that was a no-no. When he had that putt on 17, he was smiling. That was like, you never saw that back in the day. He would have been laser focused, ready to roll. It was pretty cool to see him. Jesse, what were your thoughts on Tiger this weekend?
Yeah, he was impressive. He lost a stroke on the greens Sunday, and that was the big difference because he birdied one and then didn't birdie again until 17 and had a bogey in between there. And he's just leaving everything short. And I got to think that that's a little bit of nerves because I don't care how great you've been at something. It's been a long time in golfing world anyways, since he's been great at golf. So there's got to be a little bit of nerves there. And I suspect that was kind of what it was as far as leaving a lot of putts short. But yeah, I was impressed with how he played this weekend. And it's only going to be good for the game again. I mean, just imagine him now with all the other good golfers we got. I tweeted something out about this being the greatest golf season ever, potentially, that we're witnessing, and I still believe that this potentially could be the best golf season of all time.
Well, it's just great. Tiger's going to come through. Phil finally gets the win. Casey gets a win. The young guys are winning. It's a lot of awesome stuff. A couple other things from the weekend. Pat Reed, even though he did blow it on 18 there. That was rough to see. He did have a good week for Patty Reed, who's been very up and down. And then there's just a lot of other good things. Justin Rose and chokes on Sunday. Snedeker was just horrible on Sunday. But then there were some other guys that came through big. Any final thoughts on the Valspar Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, I'm disappointed in Connors. I was rooting for him. I thought that he obviously had a chance. But when you looked at the leaderboard, you had so many of these top guys, right? And then you had Connors up there. And we kind of thought it was going to happen, but you were hoping it wasn't. I mean, young guy, kind of dream scenario for him. So that was a shame. The last thing that I'll kind of mention is Patty Reed, and only one shot in particular is the second shot into, par 5, 15th or 15th. He had to, double dogleg par 5. He had to hit this, I think, 260-yard 3-wood and slice it like 60 yards. And he hit this shot and helicoptered his finish, and it was incredible, man. Like, he hit it and immediately knew it was on point. Like, he started walking after it and left himself like 12 feet for eagle. At that point, I was like, yeah, Pat Reed is going to win this golf tournament. And then he just choked it away on 18, which was super disappointing.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse? Any final thoughts?
That was you're talking about 14 there, but yeah,
14, yeah.
I thought he had it on lock after that too. So that putt he hit on 18 ended up going 3 inches according to Shot Tracker. He probably traveled a good 90 though, 90 feet,
yeah.
or at least probably 70 feet. But yeah, it was crazy tilting leaderboard, super tilting for me because you had the likes of Trey Mullinax in the top 10, Jim Furyk out of nowhere. Steve Stricker. I mean,
we talked about Stricker.
Sean O'Hare, Ryan Blom in the top 20, TJ Vogel, Abraham Answer, who finishes dead last in Mexico in his home. It was a weird weekend all around for me. But it was fun to watch because the names up top. And so, like I said, greatest golf season ever. It's happening. Let's move on.
Okay. I'm going to ask you guys this question, though, and just give me like 140-character Twitter response each. Do you have a problem with Pat Reed wearing red and black on Sundays? Bucks.
No.
Jesse?
No, not at all. No.
Okay, I didn't care about it at all, but it's more controversial than I thought it would be all of a sudden. I really didn't care about it. Like, he's done it his whole career, so it didn't surprise me.
Yeah. That's the thing. He's always done it.
That's what I thought.
He does it because of Tiger. That's why
he does it in honor of Tiger. It's like he's not trying to steal it from him.
He shouldn't change it just because Tiger's one group behind him.
Here's the dream scenario. They're in the final group of the Masters, both wearing the exact same outfit.
That would be hilarious. That would be great.
That would be outstanding. And then I have a legit question, and I might wait real quick, and then I'll let you have it. I have a legit question because we couldn't figure it out Saturday or Sunday at the golf course. How do they determine who's in the pairings? Because when they had the three-way tie, why wasn't Tiger in a final pairing?
It's all about who turns in their scorecard first.
Yeah.
Okay. See, we couldn't figure out an answer. I thought maybe it was official golf rankings or something. We couldn't figure it out.
It's just all got to do with when you turn your scorecard in.
Yeah.
That's simple.
First in wins. First in wins.
If you ain't first, you're last. Okay, Bucks, you got one more question?
No, I just wanted to, while I was thinking about it, because I was going to forget it, if you haven't checked out the new PGA Tour AR app.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Ridiculous. Insane.
Yeah.
Check it out because it's awesome. Can't wait to use that.
On one hole.
On one hole, yeah.
Nice. All right, let's do some fan share recap of the weekend, and we'll get into your Arnold Palmer Invitational preview. Jesse, give us a little recap of the Valspar.
Yeah, it was a bloodbath from a DFS perspective as far as chalky names missing the cut. You had the likes of Stinson, who was highly owned, Spieth, who was highly owned, Streelman, Finau, and Duffner all missing the cut. It was pretty similar to the Honda in that 6-6 percentage was super low. I think it was around, depending on which contest, probably about 3%. And then 5-6 was only around, 15 to 17%. So you only had about 20% of lineups. I cashed one lineup with 4-6 because I had Paul Casey in the 444. So that was excellent. Only 5 out of the 10 of the most tagged golfers on FanShare made the cut, and but there were some good pivots again. The guys over at FanShare doing a really good job of finding the pivots, and that's one thing that I always do is look at their ownership projections, look at the guys who are going to be highly owned, and then try to find a guy that's right around that same price range that potentially in a GPP I can pivot off of into maybe a missed cut for the highly owned guy and got more points on the weekend. So
sweet. Yeah, no, it was very good as usual. I'll get into the Arnold Palmer FanShare info in a bit. Let's get to the preview. Jesse, give us some past event history of the Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, so it's been played at Bay Hill here for a long time. It's had many different names. Last year, Mark Leishman beat Charlie Hoffman and Kevin Kisner by one shot. Year before that was Jason Day. This is where we start to get a little weird. Matt Every won in 2014 and 2015. And before that, a guy named Tiger Woods, if you guys have heard of him or not, He's a champion in 2013, 2012, 2009, 2008, 2003, 2002, 2001, 2000. So he's only won, I think, 8 times. Yeah.
My God, it's 8 wins. That is pretty
The other
damn
thing,
wild.
Tiger is 4. I think he's won 4 of his last 5 starts here, which is
not bad.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's pretty decent, I would say.
Pretty incredible.
Bucks, you got a course preview for us?
Yeah, man, of course. So this is obviously, well, first things first, this is the Arnold Palmer Invitational. This is the first event of his since, I guess, since his passing, right? This is the first one that we'll have here that he's not at it.
Second. Last year was the first one.
Gotcha. So I know that him alone drives quite a few of these guys coming out there, which is cool. But I was looking up Arnold Palmer earlier, and he had from 1960 to 1963, he had 29 wins and 5 majors. How ridiculous is that 3-year stretch? Just unreal. So, yeah, awesome event. It is at Bay Hill, 7,400 yards. So decently long track, but it is a par 72. So, I mean, based on the courses we've been seeing, like the Valspar being, it's probably playing around the same distance, to be honest with you. So nothing too crazy here. It is Bermuda greens. And I think, honestly, we continue kind of that Florida swing. I mean, the Honda, the Valspar, and now the Arnold Palmer, just super tough tracks when you consider a lot of the other events. I think this is in the top 10 hardest courses on tour. Jesse already covered kind of the average winning score, that kind of thing, but it's a difficult golf course that requires all facets of your game again, just like the Valspar. So you have to have length off the tee. You have to have precision into these greens because it went through a redesign, and the greens are fairly small, but there's a lot of little undulations. There's a lot of runoffs. And so you have to saved it. You really have to be patient around the greens, be creative around the greens. And there's a ton of hazards and bunkers, that kind of thing. So you really have to have your patience as well. There are 9 holes with dog legs, 35 fairway bunkers, and 10 holes where water comes into play, including those final 3 holes that always provides quite a bit of fireworks. So as far as the course goes, there are 4 par 3s. They average 216 yards, which is rough. Like, all of them play over par. 3 of them are over like 4% in the double bogey range. Just crazy. There are 10 par 4s. They're averaging right around 450 yards. And then there's 4 par 5s averaging 550 yards. So they're gettable par 5s. Last week at the Valspar, it was something like 34% of all scoring, or 37% of all scoring came on the par 5s. At the API here is even higher. So premium on par 5 scoring. That being said, there are a couple par 5s where it is a true risk-reward hole. Number 6 is a perfect example. It's fairly short par 5, dogleg left, water all up the left side, and the average score is 4.8. So it plays a ton under par, one of the easiest holes on the course, but over 5% of the scores on that hole, and 5% is super high for this stat, over 5% of the scores on that hole are double bogey or worse. And so there's true risk-reward play there. This is a hole a couple years ago where Rory stuck in a long iron to like 2 feet in the final round. But again, there's a wide variety of holes here that really test a player's patience off the tee. As far as the approach shots, par threes, like we said, 160 or 216 yards on average. On the par fours, the average approach shot's 169 yards. And then on the par fives, if you're not going for it in two, it's 90 yards. But overall, I fully expect it to be somewhere around that kind of 11, 12 under mark. And I expect there to be some fireworks on the last few holes coming into Sunday. So it should be a fun event to watch.
Yeah, it should be another good one, as always. Pretty good field. Being an invitation, only 120 players instead of 144. Still 70 are making the cut. So only 50 cut this week. So 6 of 6 might be a little more common this week. We shall see, unless the chalk gets nailed again like last week. Some big chalky boys went down.
Yeah.
With a lot of the similarities we've seen of late, Jesse, what are some of the key stats you're looking for as you build your lineups?
Yeah, this week, I think this is what, the 10th tournament of the year or something like that. So we've got some decent, more long-term stats. When I say long-term, I'm talking like, within the last 12 weeks. So I start looking at a little bit more long-term than just your recent stuff. But either way, always greens and regulation. Scrambling, I think, is a big deal this week as well. And birdie or better, because you can make some. The scores here can get low. It just depends on, I think, the weather quite a bit, but also bogey avoidance as well. So that's pretty much what I'm looking at.
Nice. Bucks, What are you looking at?
Yeah, fairly similar. Every single week I'm looking at DK points, birdie or better, bogey avoidance, recent form, that kind of thing. And I think last week, I don't know who posted it, but we talk about it quite a bit, but you can't look – when you're playing DK, you can't look at just somebody's average finishing position.
Right.
I'm not talking about DK. I'm talking about the leaderboard because it matters, right, for cut reasons. But from a points perspective, there are guys that finished 25th or worse that were in the top 10 in DK points, like Cam Smith. Cam Smith didn't finish – he finished well, but he was like top 5 in DK points last week. It was just – and that's what he does. Like, the guys that can make birdies and still make some bogeys – it makes a huge difference. And so while, yes, you want a cut maker, you really do have to focus on their DK points, their scoring, the birdies, that kind of thing. With that being said, as mentioned, this course does require your full bag, right? You have to hit all the shots. You have to be on point. And so this week, Jesse already mentioned scrambling, but this week I'm really keeping it simple. Strokes gained total. So the full facet of your game, greens and regulation, because that seems to be a key stat for the guys that finish well here. And then really par 5 scoring. There's 40% or higher of all your points are coming from those 4 par 5s. So that's going to be a huge key for me.
Yeah, I dig it with everything you guys are saying there. Let's get into some of the fan share info from the tournament last year. Your top 10 DraftKings scorers from the field that are in the field this year. So might not be the 10 overall because some might not be playing. But the winner, Leishman, had it all, but he only beat Rory by 4.5 points. Then you had Charlie Hoffman, Kevin Kisner, Emiliano Grillo. Even after throwing his club into the water, was your 5th highest DraftKings scorer. You have Tyrell Hatton, Ricky Fowler, Francesco Molinari, Tommy Fleetwood, and Lucas Glover. And just remember those names when we go through the picks because there's at least half of those that are dirt cheap this week. So something to think about there. They did have good success here last year. A couple other things I wanted to briefly mention. When you talk about the top 10 recent, highest owners that are in the field this week, in order, you got Fleetwood, and he'll probably be chalky again this week. Justin Rose has been, on average, almost 21% lately. The last 3 events. Chasen Hadley, even though he's been playing poorly, he's almost a 20% usage on average. Zach Johnson, Matsuyama, who's back this week after withdrawing from Phoenix. Mark Leishman, Kevin Streelman, Cameron Smith, Henrik Stenson, and Jason Day. So most of those names you'd expect. A couple stand out. And last but not least, your current form average DraftKings points in the last 10 games for people in the field. Jason Day, and then we got some surprising ones. James Hahn, second most average DraftKings point in the last 3 events at 81.6. AJ McHenry, 77.5. Most don't even know who that is. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. AJ McHenry. I'm guessing he's in the 6K range. Jason Kokrak, Cam Smith, Tommy Fleetwood, Bubba Watson, Zach Johnson. Luke List has been playing very well of late. And then Emiliano Grillo. So most of those names, yes, you expect. Some of those, not so much. So keep that in mind when we go over that list throughout the week. Usually some of those kind of surprising names, they pan out. So if you're looking for tiebreakers or whatever, keep them in mind. All right, let's get at it. We have 5 guys in the 10K and above this week. Pretty good field, as always. Like you said earlier, they like to bring the big names out. Tiger Woods mentioned after he lost on Sunday, he wanted to play this so bad for Arnie. So we got Jason Day at 11.8, Justin Rose at 11.5, Rory McIlroy at 10.7, Ricky Fowler at 10.3, and Tiger Woods at $10,000. Bucks, take us away.
Yeah, I mean, the number one guy in this range for me is Justin Rose. He is 3rd in strokes gained total, and this is just the last 24 rounds. He's 6th in DK points, 5th in birdies. I love the way he's been playing. I think he'll be super motivated after last week. So Rose is my top play here. That being said, I do love Jason Day. Again, I think if I spread out my lineups this week and maybe play like 4 or 5, I'll probably have a couple of Jason Day. I think this week, more than any week I've seen in a long, long time, you can take Jason Day and get a boatload of guys that are in the low 7s that are solid, like really good. Like the pricing this week is like so soft down low that I think ownership is going to be spread out. But I do like Jason Day, Justin Rose, and then I have mixed opinions on Tiger. Like, there's no way anybody can argue that he's not playing better than almost anybody on the planet right now. I am just interested in seeing on a course where he'll have to hit a little more drivers, what he'll do. But honestly, he hit his driver well last week. And so I fully expect Tiger to top 20. And if I have a guy for 10K top 20, I'm all in. So I like it.
Nice. So what about you, Jesse?
Yeah, this it's easy to check off some of these names and just totally discount them. I mean, like Rory, I don't know what is going on with him, but I was just looking last year coming in here, he had like a bunch of top 10s in a row. He was 12,000. He was still chalky as all get out. So I don't know if that translates to the same type of thing with Jason Day this year. I do like Jason Day quite a bit. He's got a good course history here past winter. 2nd, 1st, 11th in his last 4. It's hard to argue with that. I'm interested to see because Tiger's getting a lot of buzz. But what tends to happen is with ownership, when that happens, somebody's got a lot of buzz. Oh, he's automatically going to be chalky, and then he's not nearly as chalky as what you think he's going to be. I talk about it all the time, but I just don't know where because he's just not been around long enough for me to be able to put to have a feel for where his ownership is going to be. I don't think it'll be 40%, but I could see 20 to 25%. And for that reason, I mean, he's an okay play to me. I don't know that I'll have any, but I wouldn't talk anybody out of playing him if you were playing him because he's got good form coming in.
For sure.
Yeah. No arguing that at all. I'm a big Jason Day guy this week. I like everything about him. And I agree with what you said on Rose. Those 2 guys would be my top 2 here, and they're the top 2 price guys. There's really no hiding that. But outside of that, I agree on the Tiger Woods thing. The idea of the high ownership scares the snot out of me, but it's one thing to monitor for sure because, like you said, Jesse, if he's 20 to 25%, that's still not going to be horrible. You can deal with that. Because think about how often do we play Paul Casey, and he's this chalk of the chalk these days.
Yeah,
every week, every single week.
Think about ownership with him.
No, and like you said, Bucks, like you expect minimum top 20 from Tiger. So it's one of those things. If you can just lock that in, you go in a cash game. Don't even worry about it. Just play them. I'm fine with that 100% if you want. But those would be my guys there. Honestly, looking at the builds here, I'm going to try to avoid this range. I say it a lot, but it seems to be working out pretty well of late. I really like this 9 and 8K range. But up top, Day and Rose. I like Day more than Rose, but I like them both. And then Tiger Woods is just lock and load. But he's, like you said, everyone's talking about him, so we shall see how that turns out. And he's the heavy favorite in the field. Let's drop into the 9K range. We got Matsuyama, Fleetwood, Noren, Stenson, and Hatton. Jesse, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is my range. This is where all the guys are who are roster.
This is Team Euro.
Yeah, and so what I'm doing this week is I'm getting some Jason Day teams in there. Still debating on whether to put Tiger in a team. I mean, I hate to sit there and watch him because my problem last week is I'm sitting there rooting against Tiger because I have zero Tiger. I don't want to root against Tiger. I mean, I have a Tiger Woods T-shirt. I don't want to root against him, so I'm probably going to have to throw at least one or two lineups with Tiger in there. But in this range is where like my main plays will come from. Love Fleetwood, love Noren, love Hatton. I think Fleetwood will probably be the most chalky out of those three with Noren next, and not getting a lot of buzz out of Hatton, but I love his game coming in. Though super sneaky play, you guys let me know if you're willing to do it or not, is Stenson coming off the missed cut. He was super chalky last week. I mean, he missed the cut here last year, but before that he was third, second, fifth, eighth in his previous 4 starts. And it's not like he can't bounce back from that cut. I don't know what the hell was going on with him last week, but he only hit 44% of his greens, and that's totally un-Stenson-like. So I'd imagine he straightens that out, and I can see him being the lowest owned guy of anybody above 9,000.
Yep, there's a handful of missed cut chalk that is very tasty this week. Bucks, what do you like in the 9,000s?
Yeah, my number one play here is Noren. I love the way his game's at right now, and he's just off the charts from the model perspective. I do love Fleetwood, always love Fleetwood. But as Jesse mentioned, I think that the sneaky play here is going to be Stenson. He's going to be, I think he'll be sub 7% owned because he burned so many people last week. So honestly, I am going to have a few, and this will be a week where I probably go heavier on lineups because I like so many options up top. But I'll probably have a couple Day, a couple Tiger, a couple Rose. But I am, as usual, I will have a bunch of lineups where I start like in this 9K range and work my way down and see how that works out. But starting at Stenson at like 7% or something and working your way down is a huge differentiator.
Big time. I always loved Fleetwood, but I agree with Jesse that I think he might be the chalkiest guy in the field this week. There's a good chance of that because that price doesn't justify the player he is. So my top guy in this range is with you, Bucks, is Noren. I absolutely love him. I've been playing him the last few weeks. He's been out there, and he's just been T14, third, T16, T21, T2. $9,200. Give me a T20 or better, and I am in, like you said, with Tiger. So sign me up. I think I wouldn't be shocked if he's contending come Sunday. Hatton, I love it. I like a ton. Jesse, you nailed it. He just gets overlooked. T3 miscut, third, T15, T8 in his last 5 events, and he had a T4 here last year. Very, very good golfer that people don't talk about nearly enough. And then Stenson, you guys nailed it. I love this idea of, the chalk of the chalk, missing the cut. He's made 8 of 9 cuts at this event. He missed the cut last year, which will scare even more people off. But the 4 events prior to that, T3, second, T5, T, like you mentioned, Jesse, he's got 4 top 10s at this event. He knows this course very, very well. So I think if you do like a Noren, Stenson, Hatton, not with all 3, but take 2 out of those 3 and just kind of mix and match in your lineups, you could have a nice little twosome up top there and still have a decent amount of money to play with afterwards. So I like that 9K, lower 9K a ton. You could really do some damage.
I think it's very feasible to do Noren, Stenson, and Hatton.
I agree.
A low-owned stack there if you do choose to do that.
Yeah, I think it could be very productive come Sunday. Let's get into the 8K range where we got Mr. Captain America himself, Patrick Reed, Adam Scott, Bubba Watson, Brian Harmon, lefty, back to back. Got the defending champion Leishman, Snedeker, Usti, List, Kokrak, and Jamie Lovemark. In the 8K range, I'll kick us off here. We've been avoiding Adam Scott quite a bit this week, but if you've watched his play of late, he's slowly coming back into form, and people forget this used to be one of the top, players in the world at one point in time. So $8,700, this could be an intriguing play on him. Brian Harmon, I like a ton in this range, $8,500. Coming off a T5, T13, T17, his last two events here. He's looking to kind of get back into that form, which we saw earlier in the year in Hawaii. So I do like him quite a bit at $8,500. As you go down, you could go to Sneds for low ownership. I think people will be scared off of him. He's made 9 of 11 cuts at this event. But then Luke List, $8,100. I mentioned how well he has played in his last few events. He's in the top 10 in DraftKings scoring in his last 3. He's made T16 a second in his last 2 events. He finished T17 here in his only event. And then there's Jamie Lovemark, who's played well, but I'll never touch Jamie Lovemark. So in this range, I really, really like Harmon and List, and I'll be looking at some Adam Scott as well. Jesse, what do you like in this range?
Yeah, I definitely won't be playing any Pat Reed. I think his putter was too hot last week, and he won't be able to carry that over. So I'll mark him. He's already off the list for me. But couple guys, Adam Scott playing really well. His putter's getting better, but he's just striping the ball. So if he can just have some kind of decent halfway, putter, then he can score well here. He's also making a ton of birdies here recently. And has just been scoring a lot of DK points. He can attack the par 5. So I do like him. I think one guy who will go kind of unnoticed because he's sandwiched in between Scott and Harmon is Bubba. He's playing so much better now than he was last year or even the year before, really. He still kind of gets overlooked, and I really like – just the way that he's like in my mind, I picture him as a Phil Mickelson type of guy because he's left-handed and he takes the ball. So, I mean, Phil's had some success here, so I don't mind Butler at all. I'm going to try to get him on a couple teams. Other than that, I mean, Sneds, he's okay for me. Louis Oosthuizen, if you want to. He's not doing a whole lot. He did make the cut last year. He's made the cut 3 straight times he's played here. And Luke List, big fan of Luke again this week. I think this golf course sets up well for him. Finished 17th here last year, so I agree with that, Bubba.
Yep. What are you thinking in this 8K range here, Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few guys here that I love as well. I mean, one of the guys that I'm not sure I can play, but dude was straight fire last year is Leishman, and being the former champion and sandwiched in between Harmon, Scott, Reed, Snedeker, Ustays, and all those guys, I could see him being decently low owned. We talk about it, and I talk about it quite a bit, is I don't buy into the whole ownership conversation a ton unless I think a guy like Stenson at 7% can win. And so I'm not going to look at ownership too heavily. With that being said, I do love me some Brian Harmon this week. I really like his game for this course. He has been on fire. He is in the top 10 in 4 of the 6 kind of stat categories I'm looking at. And so I'll be having a ton of Brian Harmon. Luke List, I do not like Luke List. And so it's pained me how well he's been playing and how chalky he's been. But I don't think that stops. Like, he's been playing great. And he makes a ton of birdies. He scores on par 5s. He is just solid all around right now. But my pivot this week is going to be a huge pivot from Luke List to Jason Kokrak. I really do like Jason Kokrak this week a ton. He makes a ton of birdies. He hits a ton of greens, and the thing that he does best in his game is scores on par fives. He crushes par fives, and so I think I am going to. And this is the perfect example of what I was just saying. I don't really look at ownership, but if I have Luke List and Jason Kokrak next to each other, and I think Kokrak is half of his ownership, I'm going Kokrak.
Yeah, I like that a lot. He's made 4 straight cuts at this event as well. So the cock rock could definitely be in play. I have no problem with that at all. Let's go to the 7K range. It is loaded per usual. Some really good guys led off with Mr. Alphabet himself, Jesse's boy. But there are some definite ones in these, 75 and above and 75 and below that are pretty darn nice. Jesse, what do you like in this area?
Yeah, obviously, Kierdak at 7,900. My issue with him is the same that I have with Grillo at 7,600. They've both been flying all over the country, or all over the world, all over the world. So Kierdak went like from somewhere to Mexico, then back to India or someplace else in Asia. I don't know. He's been read today where he's flown like 35,000 miles in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yes.
That's just an insane amount, and he was looking to be chalky. So I obviously would want to play him, but I'm not sure if I want to play a chalky, wore-out smoker. So that'll be interesting to think about. It's the same thing with Grillo. Like, Grillo's stats really pop on my model, but do I want the guy who's been flying all over the world? That's just something to think about. Obviously, got a little bit of rest in between here, but just trying to think outside the box a little bit. James Hahn is a guy that I will play at 7,600. He has been playing quite well here recently. He did make the cut last year, finished 49th, but 14th, 26th, and 11th in his last 3 starts. You mentioned him earlier as scoring DK points, so I think that's a pretty good price on him. Ben On is interesting to go back to if you're willing to take a risk. He pissed me off so bad last week because I had so much of him. But he just missed 1 cut. It's not like the end of the world, so I think he makes an interesting GPP play. Keegan Bradley at 7,300 I think is a bit of a steal there the way he's playing. Sam Burns at 7,200. I like him quite a bit. He needs to get, I think, like 2 more. He needs to score like so many more points to get like tour status or something. So he's got some extra motivation there. Kyle Stanley's interesting to me as well because 7,200 ball striker extraordinaire. He does have 2 top 20s with a couple missed cuts in 4 years here. He did withdraw last week. I never really did hear why, but it was pre-rounds. Or it was pre-lock. It was actually early Monday, and Corey Connors got in and almost won the golf tournament. So coming off 25th at Mexico after 2 missed cuts. And then last but not least, I know you'll probably hate me or you'll either back me for this, Bubba, but Streels the Reels. Chalky missed cut last week.
It's one of my favorite plays of the week.
Yeah, very good price on him at 7,100. He's got okay, of course, history here. He's not done anything special since 2010, but he's a cut maker usually. So I like for him to bounce back this week. So I'll have some of him as well.
No doubt. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, this range is just freaking stacked, dude. Like, you could have an entire team in the 7K range and be completely fine. Like, it would not surprise me if like the $4 or $8 one with nobody up top. Like, this range is insane. Cam Smith, Golden Cherub. Got him.
By the way, you have got me on the Golden Cherub bandwagon. I want to tell you that.
Yeah, every time he's at the top of the leaderboard.
I don't care if he's at the top. Just go ahead and make your Eagle Birdie double He's already doubled.
And you know, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but you know who he reminds me of right now, at least price wise? This is Adam Hadwin last year all over again, where his price is going to just never rise until he wins.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's crazy.
Like he was, and I like overlooked him initially last week, but like ended up playing him in 2 out of my 3 lineups. And he just scores a lot of points, man. And at $7,800, that's what I'm talking about. Like you have a Stenson Smith like combo there. You have low ownership and super high potential. Cam Smith is 7th in my model in par 5 scoring, top 20 in bogey avoidance, strokes gained total, and then DK points. Like I said, he just scores a ton of points. A guy that if I'm going for the all low ownership team, I am going to play Benny On again. He burned a ton of people last week. I think he'll be sub 10% owned, and he is a par 5 monster. So I think last week was an anomaly, and he kind of rebounds this week. So I love Benny On this week. A couple others that are good plays: Zach Johnson, Kevin Chappell is ridiculously cheap this week. But 2 of my favorite plays in the 7K range: Russell Knox and James Hahn. Jesse already mentioned Hahn. Bubba, you already mentioned Hahn. Dude scores a ton of points. The only thing that kind of concerns me about Hahn is he doesn't eat par 5s like a lot of these guys, but he scores points. Like makes a ton of birdies, doesn't make a ton of eagles, whatever. But Russell Knox is another guy that I love. Kind of just been playing well, perfect game for this course. I love him this week.
Yeah, Knox is that perfect GPP guy. Seems like he's all or nothing. So if he makes the cut, he's contending or at least top 20. So that's good. My 7K guys, we already talked about the Golden Cherub. I'm all aboard that train. Again, chalky or not, Zach Johnson at 7,700 is way too cheap. Way too cheap for what he does. It's just stupid. We mentioned it last week, and he paid off. He's made 13 of 14 cuts here with 5 top 10s. So I have no problem with him at 77. But if you want to pivot in that range, as Buck mentioned, it's a great idea. Scott Stallings is $7,700, and he's playing great golf. Not the best history here, but he's just making cut after cut after cut. T31 last week, T29 prior to that, and then he's a T4, 7, T23. So that's a pivot off of ZJ if you want to be a little different that I don't hate at all. As you go down the list, CH3, 15 of 17 made cuts here. You know what you're going to get with him. Probably not going to win you anything, but if you're looking for a cash game play, Chucky is always in play for me. And then the farther down you go, Keegan Bradley at 73 is too cheap. So is Kevin Chappell. And if you want to pivot, because those 2 names I've heard a ton, Stuart Sink is 73 as well. Another just cash game guy, except, Chappie and Bradley, you could see T10ing, where Sink probably not so much. So there's your differentiations there. I love Molinari at $7,300. Already mentioned how well he's been playing and how well he likes this course. 5 of 5 made cuts here with 4 top 20s and 3 top 10s in those 5 events. T7 here last year. So Molinari definitely enjoys this course. He hasn't been worse than T17 in the last 4 years at this golf course. So Molinari at $7,300, I like a ton. He is a core player for me. And then as you go down, Charlie Hoffman's intriguing. He's playing some really funky golf right now, but at $7,100, T2 here last year, how well he can play. So that's always on the radar. But I love the Streelman call. The second I saw these prices at $7,100, he's better than $7,100. I don't care if he missed the cut. To me, that just makes people get scared off even more. He is way, way better than a $7,100 player. He's one of those guys that I can, if he misses the cut, I'm fine with. I wasn't even that. Of course, I was angry that he missed the cut last week, but it didn't kill me because I know how good he really is. He's made 6 or 7 cuts at this event. So sign me up for some Streels at 71. And then one just based on price alone. And this is a guy I can't stand. But he's made 8 of 9 cuts here, including a top 10. He's only $7,000. So if you want a cheapie, JB Holmes could be sneaky. You're talking par 5 scoring books. JB can sneak on you. And at $7,000, like GPP wise, he is not a $7,000 player. By at least he needs to be at least 7,500 or more. So just price alone, JB at 7,000 is definitely on the radar if you want to go GPP wise. And I'm not a JB guy, but just price alone, you got to find those problems there, and JB is definitely one of those kind of guys. So yes, Jesse, you're valid in your take. Let's go into the $6,000 range where it's interesting as always. You got one of my guys I will be going back to, even though he missed the cut last week. But Bucks, what do you like in the 6K department?
Yeah, there's a couple guys down here that I actually like. Sam Saunders, like him a bunch this week. Maybe in narrative street, but dude's been making a ton of birdies. Scores well in par fives. And then Bryson DeChambeau, another guy that I'm going to be on. I mean, he's way too cheap. He's top 25 in 5 of my 6 categories. He crushes par fives. And so I'll be all over Bryson this week. This is a week that I don't think you need to go down this low, honestly. And so you could have Jason Day, Bryson, and a bunch of guys in the high 7, low 8 range, which I think will work out. A couple of the guys that I like. Brandon Harkins is a guy that I think has potential here. Been playing decent. Stats seem to fit the mold here. And then one guy that, honestly, the only reason I'm mentioning him is because of how good he was as an amateur, the way he played the Masters last year, is Curtis Luck. I love this guy. And there's no reason for me to pick him this week, and I likely will not be playing him, but that's a guy that I will be looking at every week that he plays just to see how he's been playing, how cheap he is, because that dude's going to be a baller one day. Like, he is good. And then the last guy I'll mention down here, just because I think you mentioned him earlier, Bubba. Again, he doesn't pop on the model or anything like that, but I think you mentioned AJ McInerney or something as like one of the top 10 scorers on DK or something stupid.
It's pretty crazy.
He's down there at 6,800. So, but again, this week, like I said, I don't think you need to get down this low. Past like the $6,900 guys. So I don't know. It's weird.
I got a question for you, Bucks, because I liked everything I looked at. Makes me like DeChambeau quite a bit. But are you nervous that he withdrew last week for a sore back the second time he's done that this year?
Yes. I mean, honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's my only – I like it. That price is too cheap. I agree.
I think my thought is if I'm – let's just say I do 10 entries this week and I do 10 in the 8, the 4, I don't know what's out there this week. I haven't even looked. But I have a bunch of lineups. I'll likely have like 2 Bryson and hedge everywhere else in case something like that happens. Like, I think that could suppress ownership and could be a really great GPP play.
No, definitely. Jesse, what are you looking at in the 6K range?
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with the new Louis Oosthuizen, a.k.a. Bryson DeChambeau bracket. I'll let you guys get on that. I'm going to try to stay out of this region as much as I possibly can because I'm not a huge fan of it. But I'm going to give a couple plays. Sam Saunders, obviously, narrative street, playing very well. Should probably be the highest guy I own, below probably 72 or 7,300. But I can see why, because he is playing well. A couple of pivots off him would be Aaron Wise or Brandon Harkins. Otherwise, I'm not really trying to get down here. As low as I want to go is Strillman at 7,100. And I'll let these guys kind of hang. But, of course, I've been saying that for a while now. These guys are – there's always like a few down here that make the cut, and it just tilts me to death. So we'll see. But I don't want anything to do with Bryson. I'm not on.
Yeah, it's like we always say, we're not looking for a winner down here. Just make the cut, and we'll be happy. So John I'll go back there again. I know he let everybody down last week, but $6,800 coming into last week was playing very, very well, and has made 5 of 5 cuts at this event. So that's pretty darn good for this range. So John Hutt, $6,800, I'll go back to. And then one that kind of surprised me price-wise, another guy that I don't feel deserves it the way he's played of late. He's played really, really good golf. I know most of it's on the Euro Tour. But Anibon Lahiri at $6,800 is that guy that Out of most of the guys down here, could at least finish higher than you think. God, Jesse hates my. But I already made a lineup this week that doesn't have a 6K guy in it, so I'm okay with that. But those are the two I'd look at if I was going down here. Let's talk
here he can
punts.
go off at any moment.
And that's why I like him down there for $6,800. He's one that can definitely get it in. Let's talk punts. Jesse, who you punting with this week?
If I got in the 6,000 range, it'd be Harkins. But like I said, as low as I want to go is Streelman 7,100.
What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jesse, but if I play somebody down here, it's going to be Saunders or DeChambeau.
And I like both of those quite a bit. Mine would be Hutt or Lahiri, but yeah, stay in the sevens if you can. Let's talk bus of the week. Bucks, who's your bus?
Bust of the week. It's tough, but Patty Reed.
Ooh.
I like it. I like it. What about you, Jesse?
I don't think it's hard at all. It's Rory McIlroy.
Okay, I think that's the Captain Obvious pick. That's the Captain Obvious pick. Give us something else.
What's happening with that dude, man? I'll tell you what.
He's going to win one of these weeks, but I'm not going to be on him when he does. That's all I know.
Bust of the week. I'll go Leishman.
Interesting. Mine is going to be Hideki Matsuyama.
Oh, that one's not easy.
Okay, Ricky Fowler.
That one's not easy.
Actually, I've heard a lot of people liking Ricky this week.
I know. I'm just joking with you.
I wrote down three because I knew this was kind of that. McIlroy, Fowler, and Matsuyama all written down.
Rory's the easy one.
That's a very easy one. Let's go. Who is your core this week, Bucks?
Oh, man. Core this week is going to be likely Noren and Han. And obviously the Golden Cherub.
Golden Cherub.
Yes. Jesse, who's your core?
Fleetwood, Noren, and Hatton.
Nice. Mine's Noren, Molinari, and ZJ. That will be my core. Okay, Bucks, who's your winner?
Noren.
Well, Bucks, you and I have the same winner. So, Jesse, who's your winner?
We don't have the odds pulled up yet either. I forgot to do that. Let me get there. So if you guys are taking Noren, because I'll probably one and done Noren.
That's what I'm taking one and done in as well. This might be a bloodbath.
What's Noren and Stenson's odds?
On Bovada, I got Stenson at 33 and I got Noren at 28.
Give me both of them, son.
Yeah. And then, so if I'm going to pick a winner, I'm going to go with Hatton.
I like it as my other choice if I didn't pick Noren. So, yeah, go with the Euro Invasion. Team Euro Invasion.
Stenson. You want to put 50 on each of those guys?
And the Cherub.
And the Golden Cherub.
I like that a lot.
What's that? 55.
We got to stay on brand, so I like that quite a bit.
All right.
Hey, if our boy Casey took it down last week, one of these boys is down to take it down pretty soon. That's for darn sure.
I agree. I mean, Cam Smith is due. He's not won on the PGA Tour as an individual. So,
what's Benny on?
Oh God!
Keep on scrolling, baby.
I was about to say, does it go that low?
No, 100.
Not bad.
All right. Nope.
I'm not gonna hate you.
I like
top.
it, but no.
Yeah, take him top 20. But all right, gentlemen, that'll wrap up our Arnold Palmer Invitational preview. Bucks, any final words?
No. Enjoy the week. See some awesome golf, some big numbers, and go Tiger. Woo.
I like it. Any final words, Jesse?
No, that's it, man. It's going to be a great weekend because you got college basketball, you got the Arnold Palmer Invitational, you got Tiger Woods on TV. Talk about setting up a favorites list and just scrolling through it. That's a little pro tip there for you guys.
Yep. It's going to be a nice weekend. It's supposed to be a lot of rain here, so I'll get to watch a lot of TV, it sounds like. So I'm looking forward to that. But with that being said, everybody, thanks for listening this week yet again to the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast. Check us out on Twitter at Always Press DFS. Again, Bucks is on Twitter at BPSnow11. Jesse is at DFS Golf Gods. I'm at BDentric, and check us out next week for some match play previewing. But for now, good luck. May your screens be green, and we cash some money and maybe a Euro invasion. Catch you guys next week.